Hey, gorgeous. I want to talk about something that I don't think gets said enough. There are things that women over 45 are dealing with right now, things that are real, things that are affecting how they feel about themselves and their life. And nobody ever prepared us for. Nobody taught us how to handle this season. Nobody warned us what it would feel like to wake up one day and not recognize yourself in your own life. Nobody told us that you could do everything right and still feel like something's missing. And because nobody taught us, a lot of women assume something must be wrong with them, that they should have figured this out by now, that everyone else seems fine, so why aren't they? Nothing is wrong with you. You just never got the lessons. So today, that's what we're doing. I'm sharing 5 lessons that women over 45 needed, lessons I needed that nobody sat us down and taught us. Some of them are going to feel obvious in hindsight, which is honestly the most frustrating kind of true. And some of them might hit in a way that you weren't expecting. Either way, I think it's time somebody said them out loud. 1. Staying quiet is a strategy we learned, not a personality we were born with. Let me say that again because I need it to land. Most women aren't silent because they have nothing to say. They're silent because they decided, consciously or not, that saying it isn't worth the fallout. For me, I spent years thinking I had a confidence problem, that I just needed to speak up more, assert myself more, be less afraid. But when I really got honest about it, that wasn't the issue at all. I knew what I thought, I knew what I felt, I knew what I needed. I just wasn't saying it because somewhere along the way, I had done the math, and the math told me that keeping quiet was cheaper than the cost of speaking up. That's not a confidence problem. That's a survival strategy. And a lot of women have been running that strategy for decades without ever naming it. Here's what I want you to think about. What have you stopped saying, not because it stopped being true, but because saying it felt like too much? What opinions have you quietly buried? What needs have you trained yourself not to have? What would you say right now if you weren't factoring in everyone else's reaction? Because here's the thing about editing yourself for long enough. You stop being able to tell the difference between what you genuinely think and what you've decided is safe to think. And that gap between your actual self and the version you present to the world, that gap has a cost. And you're the one paying for it. Nobody taught us that staying productive and staying connected to yourself are two completely different things, and that you can lose one while perfecting the other. So I want you to think about a typical week in your life, not a stressful week, just a normal week. You wake up, you handle things, you move through your to-do list, you take care of whoever needs taken care of, you get to the end of the day, and then you do it again tomorrow. And if someone asked you how you were doing, you'd probably say, fine, busy, you know how it is. But here's what I want you to sit with. When is the last time you ended a day and felt genuinely satisfied? Not just finished. When is the last time you did something not because it needed to be done, but because it actually fed something in you? When is the last time you felt present in your own life instead of just moving through it? For a lot of women, those questions don't have a quick answer. And that silence, that reaching back and coming up empty, that's the pain point. Not crisis, not breakdown. Just the slow creeping realization that you've been incredibly busy for a very long time and somehow your actual life has been taking a back seat. I know that feeling. I lived in it for a long time, longer than I'd like to admit. And the hardest part wasn't even recognizing it. It was admitting that I had let it go on for so long without question. There's a version of being a woman in midlife where you're technically doing everything right, and yet you feel nothing. Not depressed, not ungrateful, just kind of numb to your own existence, like you're watching your life instead of living it. And a lot of women have normalized that so thoroughly that they don't even register it as a problem anymore. Getting curious again about what you want, what your interests are, what you actually choose if obligation wasn't the deciding factor. That's not a midlife indulgence. That's a basic requirement for staying connected to yourself. And if you've stopped asking those questions, that's not nothing. That's worth taking seriously. And nobody taught us that the roles we'd be spending our lives building could shift. And then when they did, we'd be standing there wondering who we were without them. I want you to think about a moment, and I think a lot of women over 45 have had a version of this, where something shifted. Maybe the kids didn't need you the same way anymore. Maybe your relationship changed. Maybe you stepped away from a job or a role that you held for years. And instead of feeling free, you felt lost. And little by little, your identity was unraveling. And you couldn't fully explain it. And you couldn't fully explain it because nothing catastrophic happened. Life just changed in the way that life changes. But you found yourself wondering quietly, maybe even privately, if you even knew who you were outside of that thing, outside of being needed in that particular way. That moment, that quiet disorientation is one of the most common and least talked about experiences women in midlife have, because we don't have a language for it. It doesn't look like a crisis from the outside, but on the inside, it can feel like standing in a room you've lived in for years and suddenly not recognizing it. And what makes it even harder is that nobody warned you. It might happen. Nobody told you that you could build a full, meaningful life and still wake up one day not quite sure who you are when you're not busy being everything to everyone else. So I want you to try something. Finish this sentence without using a single role, title, or responsibility. I am. A lot of women go completely blank, and that blank is information. We live in a culture that measures women almost entirely by what they do for other people. And after years of operating inside that system, it can start to feel like the roles are you. Like without them, there's not much left. But the roles were always just roles. They were things you did. They were not and have never been the full story of who you are. So the question isn't just who are you in your roles? The question is, who are you when no one needs anything from you? When there are no tasks to complete, no one to take care of, no expectation to meet? Who shows up? Do you even know her? Are you on speaking terms with her? Because if the answer is unclear, that's not something to gloss over. That's one of the most important questions you can be asking right now. Nobody taught us that running on empty wasn't strength. It was a sign we stopped taking ourselves seriously. Here's something I want to say directly. A lot of women wear their exhaustion like proof that they're doing enough. Like if they're not tired, they're probably not trying hard enough. Like rest is something you earn only after everyone else's needs are fully taken care of. And I believed that for a long time. And I want to tell you what it actually costs. When you are chronically depleted, you lose access to yourself. You stop being able to hear what you actually think and feel because you're so focused on just getting through the day. Your decision-making narrows. Your capacity for joy shrinks. Your tolerance for anything that isn't an immediate necessity basically disappears. You're not living, you're triaging. And the most insidious part, you start to mistake that state for normal. You forget what it feels like to not be exhausted, and then you wonder why you feel so disconnected from your own life. Rest is not a reward for getting everything done. It's a condition for being a full human being. And if you can't remember the last time you weren't running on fumes, that's not a scheduling issue. That's a belief that needs to be examined. Nobody taught us the difference between genuine wisdom and habitual shrinking. And a lot of us have been confusing the two for years. This is the one thing that sat with me the longest. There's a way that women have learned to call their self-abandonment something else. We call it selfless. We call it being the bigger person. We call it knowing when to pick your battles. We call it maturity. And sometimes, genuinely, it is those things. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just shrinking, and we've reframed it so many times that we can't see it anymore. Think about the last time you went along with something you didn't actually agree with, or stayed quiet when you had something real to say. Or you chose the option that made everyone else comfortable instead of the one that was right for you. Did that feel like wisdom, or did it feel like giving up? Because there's a real difference between choosing peace and defaulting to invisibility. One is conscious choice you can stand behind. The other is a habit, and it's costing you your sense of self, your sense of direction, and eventually your sense of what you actually want from this next chapter of your life. Getting to alignment, real alignment, where your choices actually reflect who you are right now, requires being willing to stop calling the shrinking something noble. It requires asking, am I choosing this, or am I just used to it? And if you're not sure, that uncertainty is its own answer. So those are the lessons that no one taught us. And I'll be real with you. If any of that felt like I was in your business, good. That means something in there was worth sitting with. I'm not sharing those because I have it all figured out. I'm sharing them because I had to stop looking away from certain things before anything in my life actually changed. And I believe there are women watching this right now who are at that point where they can feel that something needs to shift, but they haven't named what. If that's you, I want to invite you into a space that was built for exactly this. It's called Reclaiming You. It's my monthly membership for women who are done managing everyone else's life at the expense of their own and are ready to start making choices that actually belong to them. Every month you'll have access to live coaching conversations, resources, and a community who's ready to stop pretending everything's fine. This isn't about reinventing yourself from scratch. It's about getting honest enough to find your way back to yourself. The link for more information is in the description below or in my bio. I'd be honored to walk this journey with you. See you there.